We often talk about people coming to quilting for community and connection, but there's a third avenue to entry, people who come to quilting to heal. My next guest, Mark Darrell, after serving for 20 years in the US Marine Corp, was searching for relief for his symptoms of PTSD when he discovered that quilting gave him the quiet and solace he needed. Then he started a YouTube channel called the Quilting Marine, where he started sharing his projects, his challenges, and his joy of quilting. And he's going to tell us all about it. So grab your sewing and a cup of tea, and here's my interview with Mark Darrell, the Quilting Marine. So welcome, Mark, to the channel. Whereabouts in the world are you coming to us from?
Powder Springs, Georgia. It's in Cobb County, 30 minutes outside of Atlanta.
So you're going to be going to QuiltCon next year.
Oh, yes, definitely.
I'm already signed up to go. I think we're all kind of desperate to get out to see other people. It's been so long.
Yes, to enjoy the company of others. You know?
Well, the first time I went to a QuiltCon, it was lovely because suddenly you realized you were in this huge room with a bunch of people that like to do exactly the same thing you do.
Yes.
So there was none of this little chit chat that you had to do to get to know someone. You could just start right in.
It would actually be my first. I've never been to one. I've never been to a convention. I've never been to a fair. But I think if I go to one, I'm going to be addicted. You know, that's what kind of personality I have. Not only that, but I also have the opportunity to shop without my wife seeing, you know? Notice how I look over my shoulder.
So I understand that you started quilting when your first grandchild was expected.
That's right.
Now, we don't often hear a man say that, I'm going to make a quilt. What triggered it for you?
When he was being born, you know, everyone's going out buying gifts and getting stuff for the newborn. And I was like, man, this stuff is so common. Like, I wanted to give him something rare that, you know, most people don't give to their children or their grandchildren, no less. And a quilt just stuck in my head. I don't know why it was or where it came from, but I figured, yeah, you should make a quilt. Boy, oh boy, did I not know what I was getting myself into.
So what was your beginner mistake?
Oh, man. You know, if there's a mistake to make, I've made it. I've made them all. You know, there's a photo that my wife has of me using rotary cutters on her island, you know, and with no mat. I had no idea what, you know, self-healing mats were. I'm completely self-taught, and I was self-taught through mistakes, okay? I watched some great channels and, you know, they hand walked me through it, and it stuck. It stuck. After that first quilt, I was hooked.
So did you have any other quilters in your family, like a history of it?
Not a one. I'm the first, and I'm the only.
Wow.
Yeah.
So have you talked to anybody else in your family to quilt?
I'm working on a cousin. She wanted to get into it, so I'm working on her right now. So getting machines to her or giving her guidance on what she should look at getting. Starting out, it's fun teaching. I love teaching. You know, teaching is so great. Getting her into it has really sparked something for me.
Excellent. So tell me about the quilt that's behind you.
Oh, so this quilt, I'm working on a project, Quilting for Veterans with Rob Appel and Andrew with Combat Quilter. He does really great stuff. A Stitch in Heaven. And we're all putting together a quilt individually. And we're going to donate it to A Stitch in Heaven to show off an event for Quilting for Veterans. So this is the first quilt that I will be making to be displayed. I've never done that before. So you can imagine how my mind is just everywhere right now. But I thought, you know, I've never seen anyone do any quilt with all camouflage utilities. So I figured since I'm going to dedicate a quilt to the Marine Corps, I would use every fabric from every uniform that I've worn in every theater, from Panama to Desert Storm to Iraq. These are all the utilities worn in those campaigns. So they're either worn by myself or other Marines. There's no fabric up there that hasn't been on the body of a United States Marine.
So these are uniforms that you've cut out?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not done yet, but we're working on it. So when I'm done with the quilt top, I'm going to applique that onto the quilt top. Applique. It's the new avenue for me. So I'm going to tear some stuff up, I know, but I cannot wait to get into it. In fact, since I have a great quilter in front of me, I know you're interviewing me, but I have to interview you in return.
Okay.
So when it comes to applique on a quilt top, is it best to quilt the applique onto the quilt top or quilt the quilt top and then put the applique on?
You can do both, or you can do none, or you can just do one. Anything small, I think you want to tack down first.
Okay.
Like you want to do that on the top.
Okay.
But I think some of the bigger ones you can do afterwards if you want that pattern to be part of the quilting.
Okay. I get it. I get it. Okay.
So you may want to echo around it. Like
That's exactly what I want to do. That you read my mind. That's what I want to do. Oh, you're the first person that actually hit that nerve.
I used a product called FlexiFuse last year. And the thing that really bothers me about the applique stuff is that it gets really thick and gummy.
Okay.
And it's really hard to quilt through. So FlexiFuse, it's really nice and lightweight. It'll wash away and it'll be nice and soft and supple.
I'm going that way.
You shared on your channel that one of the reasons why you enjoy quilting is it helps you with your symptoms of PTSD. Was that just accidental that you discovered quilting that did that? Or did you try knitting or woodworking or some other crafts?
It was actually by accident. When I made my grandson's first quilt, I wanted to get into quilting again because I realized while I was making this quilt, I paid so much attention to getting the quilt done that all the darkness fell behind it. And I was like, man, was it because I was making this quilt or is it something else? So I immediately started another one for my wife. I found out that I figured that this helped me. It really helped me paying attention to the detail. I love piecing. Piecing is what gets my brain pointing in the right direction. I knew right then and there that, that term quilting is my therapy. It's not just a line. It actually works. It actually helped me. My doctor actually noticed the difference and he's like, stay with it. If it helps, stay with it. I wanted to stop taking the meds they were providing. The rest is history, actually.
I think there's a lot of people out there that need to hear about the therapeutic benefits of quilting. We have so many first-line workers and not just military who have gone through such trauma in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. How quilting can fill your bucket back up.
Definitely. And I would be the first to recommend quilting. Just thinking about what your next quilt is going to be or how you're going to do a pattern or, I'm the guy who likes making left turns. I've never had the bottom and top thread match ever in a quilt. Every one of my quilts has variegated thread in it, but I love to learn. So also, when quilters such as yourself are teaching things, I pick up on it and I put it in my toolbox and I'll put it out there. I would love to be able to get this information out or this great craft out to veterans, especially those who suffer from PTSD and the darkness, to get into it. Just try it, and if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. Because quilting doesn't do everything for me all the time, but I know where to go when I need direction, when I need a rhythm, and I need to concentrate. Quilting is where I go to do it. It's my fix.
And do you find that it works for you when you're sewing straight, or does it help you when you're just being total improv?
Total improv is it's great. I don't know where I got the moniker of the guy who does piecing with, emotional quilt and emotional blocks using tiny little threads of everything, I just love it. I can grab anything, sew it together, and it just works for me. It works for me. Don't make the mistake of thinking that I don't love patterns because I cannot wait to do another kaleidoscope. That kaleidoscope pattern, it just makes me happy. And I love doing kaleidoscope. But every time I get lined up and everything cleared off to do a kaleidoscope, I start piecing together an emotional block and I have all these blocks with everything sewn together. Yeah, there's some patterns that I really love.
So what's the smallest piece of fabric you'll use?
If it fits under the foot, I'll put it on there.
I think that needs to go on a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. If it fits under the foot, I'll use it. If my finger touches the foot in any kind of way, then yeah, it might be too small. But if my finger gets by, hey, I'm using it.
So where do you get your fabric from?
So I started the store, the quiltingmarine.com. And, we sell notions and fabrics because I wanted to be there for new quilters who had no idea or who diving in head first like I did. And I walked down the aisle of Walmart and just grabbed everything off the aisle, not knowing what I was grabbing or why I was grabbing it. When it comes to buying fabric, I'll go to local quilt shops. So many viewers, so many subscribers send fabric. I don't think I'll ever run out of fabric. And when I want to find something specific, I go to a shop in Kennesaw, Georgia called Cottontail Quilt Shop. They'll usually have what I want. I'll go in there and I'll buy something, and And I hope that my wife doesn't know that I went in there because she doesn't want me buying retail anymore. But sometimes when you go in a shop, you just get flooded with so many ideas and directions that you can go in and finding new notions that you never knew existed. I love that. When I take her into quilt shops, every time you can bet your paycheck on it that they assume that she's a quilter. And I just let them walk her around, and then I go look for fabric every time. It never misses. It never misses.
I get the opposite. When I walk with my husband into a car dealership or whatever, they presume to buy him a car. So how did you move into YouTube?
When I started quilting, I was making every mistake, but I loved it and I stuck with it. And my quilt started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I finally made a quilt for my sister-in-law, Tracy, who has her own channel, Gift Basket Appeal. So she's like, man, you're getting pretty good at this. Meanwhile, I've only been doing it for like 3 or 4 months. So my first quilt for my grandson, I didn't even put a bind on it. I just sewed the edges because I didn't know what a bind was. So I just sewed raw edges. And I was like, yeah, this looks good. He'll love this. And he's an infant, so he doesn't know what he's getting. But, I learned what binds were, and I started doing my research on quilt terms, quarter-inch seam. I didn't know what I went through it. And she was like, maybe you should, show your journey. I thought it was a great idea. And we put together the channel. My introduction video, when I'm talking like a robot, welcome to the quilting. They love that video, but I hate it, but it works. So I just started making YouTube videos. And when I first started, I always had a gun on the table because I didn't want anyone confused my masculinity with quilting, That was the reason why I got so much flack about the gun. So I took the guns off because they weren't the subject. The subject was quilting and getting better from trauma.
So do you try to talk about trauma in most of your videos?
I haven't. And recently my wife and I, we talked about it. And because, I just told her that maybe I should share something about it, and so that people can identify with what I went through. But I don't want to bring people down too. I think that it's super personal. And sharing it, I don't know, it's so weird about sharing it, I haven't even shared a lot of it with my wife because it's so heavy to carry,
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that I have shared with her, I feel bad that she carries it too. But, when I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I'm having issues and the only outlet I have is coming in here and putting together fabric, or maybe sharing it with her because the doctors that I see, most of them never served. So, breaking it down to what means what and military terminology, and, just gets burdensome. So I think I will be sharing soon.
I made a video of my own called What's in the Blue Bag. I came to quilting to repair myself as well. I had suffered an absolutely excruciating burnout. You have a superpower and you've got a problem and you just burn yourself out trying to fix it. Quilting healed me. And I did get into specifics because there are people that I know that were part of it, but I'm still close to. And I could only share my part in it. But the healing nature of quilting, because honestly, Mark, not everybody gets help for PTSD. I think your family's probably extremely grateful that you have. Mm-hmm. It hurts before it gets better. And
what you can do is try to manage it. I mean, it's something that, we carry, veterans carry, and they carry for the rest of their lives. And I think an honest effort should be made by veterans to seek help. And seeking help is not weakness in any way. It's just a way to pull you through. I had to, because when I got back, I was out of control. I was trying to relive the combat high, because I was the infantry unit. So in Fallujah, both times. So nothing was ever enough. I was self-medicating with alcohol. I was out of control and on the brink of suicide a couple of times. And my wife, man, if I didn't have my wife, we would not be talking. She pulled me through a few times, and I had to go get help. I was trying to help myself, and I couldn't because I didn't know the way to do it. Went to some professionals, and they got me super overly medicated. When veterans when they seek out help, the first thing they do is reach into the bin for medication. and not knowing what the results of those medications were. I was out of it. I didn't know who I was, where I was half the time. Something had to be done. So got off the meds, got off the alcohol. I needed something. And that about the time that I was getting dry, my grandson was being born, and quilting came into my life. And I will never let it go. Never. This is something that I absolutely need.
Well, I hope you're proud of yourself because you chose your family, and I think they probably all appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Well, not everybody does make that choice, unfortunately. And it sounds like you've got a wonderful life right now.
I have a great life. Everything is good. I do. And I recognize that too. If only I can reach someone who's in the same darkness that I was in and get them to see what light this craft can bring to them, I'd be in the clouds.
So how old is your grandson?
He's 6 now.
Wow.
6 years. So that's how I keep count. Because I'm a Marine. If you don't lay it out in crayons, we won't get it. So he's 6. That means 6 years of quilting. He'll be 7 next year. It's so quick.
And does he still have the quilt?
I don't know. That's a good question. But he's gotten many more after that. Whenever I build something that's not in my range, because I don't build little quilts, I send it to him.
I didn't make little quilts when I started off too. I was always only going to make quilts for people, for their beds, useful items.
I love you so much. Yes.
But I also found that if I didn't like a technique, I didn't want to have to commit to a whole project. Like I wanted to experiment with techniques. So I have actually made a number of wall quilts now.
That is so genius. I'm writing that down. Hold on.
Have you made one for your wife?
I've made a few for her, but usually they're the ones where I'm like, oh man, that's horrible. Hey babe, here's a quilt for you. Well, I do have a shadow block quilt that she loves. She adores it. Yeah, I usually like making quilts that could fit on your bed because I get enjoyment out of knowing that you're on my quilt, your dogs, your cats are on my quilt, they're wrapped around it. I think that gets way more satisfaction out of me than someone putting it on a wall. I think that's a little weird for me. I can get used to it.
The funny thing about quilting is like you're thinking about what does it satisfy? The need for nourishment, or no, it doesn't do that, or does it do this? And it really comes down to safety. We are sending out blankets to protect and cover our family in warmth. You think it's very decorative and, it's a hobby or whatever, but no, it's something very primal. It's our need to protect our family that we make quilts.
That's so good. Yes.
So all Marines should quilt.
That's true. I wholeheartedly believe that. I would love to have a location with nothing but machines in it and have veterans come from the VA, because the VA, it makes your head spin when you go there. Have them come to a location and just sit them down, quilt away. There's all the fabric you need. Have a good time. If you have any questions, I'm right here. In no way, shape, or form am I even near to where I want to be in my quilting skill set. But I think I'm in a position where I can help others come into our craft and be happy. It's all about being open to learn and learning new stuff. I love learning new things in our craft. I love that. When I learn something new that people have been doing forever, it's new to me. So I'm excited about it. I love it. I love quilting. The day that I think that I know everything about quilting, I'll probably move on to something else. But I don't see that day coming anytime soon. Well,
quilting is such an amazing craft because there's always something more to learn.
Yes.
And you can enjoy it at every single stage.
Yes.
You enjoyed making that quilt for your grandson. I enjoyed making my first quilt, having no clue what I was doing wrong. Like wrong. I'm going to put that in quotations because it's totally serviceable and the person I gave it to loves it. So what is wrong about it? There's nothing wrong.
That's it. When you give it to them and they're in love with it, that's everything for me. That is everything. And that's another reason why I couldn't sell a quilt. I think that would betray why I do it. I mean, it's cool for everyone else, but for me, getting it done and handing it off, once it's your baby, do with it as you please. But that excitement that they have in their face when you hand them a quilt, oh man. And I let them know right away, quilts are just like us. They have mistakes, and no quilt's perfect. And you show me a perfect quilt, and I'll show you a quilter who's probably got some issues.
So do you put a label on your quilts?
I do.
Is it hand stitched or have you bought labels?
I bought labels. I bought labels.
Okay. Are you quilting full time now?
I was working, recently I was involved with a car accident. I was sitting on a light. Some lady on her phone just comes slam into the back of the car. I'm done with therapy and everything. And we've been talking about me going back, but we've also been talking about me quilting full time, because when I come in here, I don't come in for 20 minutes. I'll come in here and then I'll open the blinds up and it'll be dark outside. Oh, well, I just spent 6 hours. Time flies by in my quilt room for me. And that's another reason why I love it too.
So how have you gone into colors when you're quilting? I'm looking at what you've got behind there. There's a very specific palette there. Is that your normal color set or?
No, I mean, I just love colors that punch you in the face. I love bold colors and working with bold colors. But I figured Marine Corps utility uniform or what you call camis, I've never seen anybody do anything like that. So I was like, man, let me try and see if it comes together at all.
I think it's gorgeous.
And
I really do.
It's starting to come together a little bit.
And now that I know that you're going to applique on top of it, I think it's going to be.
Oh man, yes. I think the applique on top is going to be so magic. I really do. So what I plan on doing with this is probably making it maybe about queen size. And I'm going to border it with the blue that Marines wear in dress blues with the blood stripe that we wear. The blood stripe is earned when you become a non-commissioned officer. So the blood stripe will also be in the blue around the border. That'll be it. Nail this thing off and I'll start on something new. Hopefully another kaleidoscope. I cannot wait to do another kaleidoscope.
So is the kaleidoscope your pattern or is it somebody else's?
It's somebody else's. And as a matter of fact, it was a kaleidoscope that Rob Appel did. He did it on a poinsettia. So he did it on that, but I figured, man, let me try it on something else because I don't like poinsettia. So let me try it on something else. I did it on another fabric and it came out pretty good. I did a series on it and I gave it to a friend of my aunt's. And I just love that. I love that pattern, that work.
So is that a one block?
Stack and whack or something like that. One block.
Well, I think a stack and whack is in quarters or half square triangles, and a one block wonder is
one block wonder. That's it. That's it.
Hexagon.
That's it. I love that. That is my favorite. No. That's my second favorite. New York Beauty does wonders for me. A New York Beauty. Oh man, if you let me do a New York Beauty, I can build one the size of my block. I mean, I love doing that pattern. So
do you do that with paper piecing or do you do that?
Piecing. Oh, yes. You got me smiling. Oh, yes.
So did you see my video last week where I showed the tool for removing the paper?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that video. Yes. Guess who's going to be the first one buying one?
So speaking of your wife, has she been part of the YouTube channel from the beginning?
Yes, from day one.
And she does all the editing.
She does everything. She's it. Without her, this thing does not go down.
So when do you decide that you're actually going to make a video? Start with your topic, or do you start with your quilt, or do you just start talking?
I just start talking, I guess. They're usually surrounded around a quilt that we're going to build. And I kind of want to go over it step by step. So someone new could be like, oh yeah, that's how you do that. Or somebody who stumbles into our craft, you kind of want to hold their hand so that they're successful in it.
So have you joined a guild?
No. And there's a reason behind it because it sounds weird, but I want to be private about my quilting. And does that sound weird or no?
No, it doesn't sound weird. It's just something you want to keep close. And
yeah. I mean, because when I come in and I close the door, this is my world. However little it is, it's mine.
So how many dogs do you have?
I have 5 dogs.
5 dogs. And they've come into your life one at a time?
They're all rescues, all but one, Darrell. But everyone has a story. And, I got Gunner in here now. And yeah, they stay close. There are loves though, because our children are grown and gone. So these are our children now,
I have my Mando. What's your favorite tool?
My favorite tool is a seam ripper.
So which brand of seam ripper do you have?
Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper seam rippers. Yes, they are great.
I've never heard of that one.
And the reason why I like them so much is because I'm an expert at using a seam ripper. If there was just a stitch mistake to be made, I've made it and I've taken it apart. But I'm starting to have a strange desire for scissors. I didn't know there were so many different scissor manufacturers.
When you go to QuiltCon or the next show that you go to, there'll be scissor manufacturers there, and you'll want to just get one that fits nicely in your hand. You know, buy well the first time and you never need another pair.
Yes. Yeah, I have a pair of Tulip Pinks, and they touch nothing but fabric. They are great, but I think I need a pair where my hand is actually in the scissor. I adjust by putting, a few fingers in and pinching instead of putting my whole hand in and using them properly.
And I don't think you need 25 different pairs. Like I know people have applique scissors and they have these ones and they have those ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person that likes their tools to do double duty if they can.
Yes, I agree. Me too.
Okay, so you were a Marine.
Yes.
In the US Armed Forces. Yes. Are there any skills that you learned that you brought into quilting?
Yes, there are. Being able to adapt, overcome, attention to detail helps a lot when it comes to quilting. It's not necessary. It's not required. As you can tell from my technique and the way I quilt, I make every left turn there is. I mean, I don't follow the path, but yeah, you're going to need some type of discipline to stay in it, stay involved with it, and some type of dedication to accomplish what you want to accomplish in our craft.
Yeah, it's a marathon, isn't it?
It is. It's not a sprint. And I learned that because I remember when I first started, when I would get to the bind, that's when everything would go out the window for me. When I would get to the bind, it's near the end. So my binds were just all over the place. And I just learned, slow down. The bind is just as important as piecing. Get it on there, get it closed up right. You need a little bit of discipline when it comes to quilting.
So do you have a favorite quilt or a quilt that you're sentimental about?
No, I do not. Kind of sounds cold a little bit, but I don't get too attached to them. There was a quilt, the second quilt that I built for my grandson. I was pretty proud of that one because it actually had a bind on it. Outside of that quilt, no, I like getting them out of the door. I don't keep them here. I don't store them. I don't have undone quilt tops. If I was to take this camera into the closet that's in my quilt room, there's one quilt hanging there, and it's my wife's quilt, the shadow block quilt. And that's the only quilt that's here that survives. Every quilt I give away. I mean, I enjoy giving away my quilt builds. That's part of the process for me. It's part of my process.
So if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best place to find you?
The quiltingmarine@gmail.com is how you get in touch with me. But I have a store, and it's the quiltingmarine.com.
And of course, they can find you on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's the best way. Tune in, subscribe.
Thank you, Mark, so much for being on the show today. It's been a delight getting to know you.
It was more of a delight for me, Karen. Look, I'm taking tips. So
next year when I'm in Atlanta, we're going to have a cup of coffee.
No, we're going to do more than that. I'm going to cook dinner for you. Come on by.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Mark Darrell. I know that there are many of you or your loved ones struggling with trauma, and the events of the past 2 years have brought it into our homes in both big and small ways. Mark and I hope and encourage you to seek assistance, and maybe quilting can be part of your journey to heal. I will have a link to the Quilting Marine YouTube channel and Mark's contact information in the video description notes below. Next up on Karen's Quilt Circle is Diana Fox-Rivette, and we will be talking about quilting with 0 rules. That's right, no rules. So be sure to subscribe so you will be notified when it goes live. The next time you're in your sewing room, be sure to have Karen's Quilt Circle playing in the background. I have interviewed so many amazing people on this show. Let one inspire you. And check out my latest videos about some amazing ways to use up your scraps. Take care, and I'll see you next time.